Hi everyone, I thought today I would make some birds using acrylic paints and experimenting with some metallic paint. So I have well, here's the colors I have, and it's quite a few. I usually don't use this many colors, but I wanted to try, there's a copper that comes in fine and coarse, and a gold metallic as well, that's black. And the paint in the tubes is a heavy body paint, and then it's called fluid paint, so it's like runnier when it's in the bottle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut. Well, first I'm using alizarin crimson to do some sketching, and that was my spray mister. And then I'll go ahead and cut off camera while I lay down the rest of the paints on my palette, and then I'll come back. So I decided I was going to do chickadees, but then I decided to do some zebra finch because they're just so adorable. I love them so much. And so, yeah. So I'm just kind of posing a couple, just freehand. I don't really have, I have a photo for reference just because they have a lot of interesting features, like um, orange beaks and orange rosy cheeks and striped lines on their breasts, and then spotted kind of rusty colored wings, and just some random leaves. And because I'm using so many colors, I decided to just really mute all the colors. So I'm trying to make this less saturated, and also because I'm using the metallics, I decided there's a lot going on, so I try to tone down my colors by adding the complement or white or black or gray, Payne's gray, as much as possible, just kind of toning down all the colors. And I had already prepared this board with, as you can see, some background paint. That is the gold paint with some interference, and I'm not sure that it adds anything to the, it's called interference gold. I'm not sure that it adds anything to the gold except makes it a little more, even more transparent. But anyway, yeah, like I said, we're just experimenting here. So I think this is a little too bright for the background. I want to tone it down. I've got a cerulean blue, an ultramarine blue light, and then a turquoise. So I've got three different blues on my palette that come from different properties. I mean, different minerals. So it'll be interesting. And then with the gold. So yeah, I decided to use the turquoise on the leaves. And I'll use the cerulean and ultramarine, I think, for the sky. And I'm also going to use some of the green for the belly, just adding some white to it. I've got two whites on my palette. I have zinc white and titanium white. And the titanium white is more opaque and it creates the brightest whites, and the zinc white's more of a transparent white. So the colors still hold their vibrancy when you mix with it. All right, I just need some more space here on my palette, so I'm pushing some paint out of the way. And this is going to be the sky. So if you, as you see, I'm adding kind of like an orangey complement. That's a Indian orange or Indian yellow, but it looks really orangish. This is a glazing medium that I sometimes use. It lengthens the dry time and also adds some transparency to the paint. And these are bristle brushes I'm using. So I'll go back in with a smaller brush to get into some of those nooks and crannies later. But I don't want the whole background to be this exact mixture of blue, so I actually stopped. I just wanted to lay some down to just get check all my values and set the mood, but I'm going to go back later and finish it and work on the birds some more. So this is a Payne's Gray and a Burnt Umber, and sometimes I use Payne's Gray as a black because sometimes honestly it's more black or dark than some of the blacks that are sold. It also can make blues if you add white to it, or greens if you add yellow to it. All right, I'm gonna have to cover up some of the eyes and just remember where they're supposed to be. And one thing that is kind of fun about painting is you don't have to use exact colors. You can exaggerate colors as long as the values are right. A lot of times it works. But I say just always experiment, and acrylic's good for that because if it's not working, you can either wipe it off right away or paint over it even to correct things that didn't work out. This is a leveling gel, and it also adds transparency and kind of a gummy effect, I guess. I don't know. It's got an interesting consistency. I use it for splatters a lot. So that's the rusty wing, and I'm using some of it for the beak as well. And I think there's a little bit of copper mixed in there. I want some of the copper on the leaf, or the leaves, the branch, the beak. Sorry, it's 5 minutes after midnight. I'm turning into a pumpkin. All right, so I'm mixing up more sky, and as you can see, I added titanium white, and it's really bright. So I'm gonna try to maybe add some more blue. It's definitely a lot brighter. Oh, I add some of the gray. There you go. Toning it down and making it a little darker. That's better. I'm not sure what I'm going to use this for. Probably part of the bird. I hope you can hear me. My next thing on my to-do list is to buy a microphone for this computer. That should help with the sound a lot. All right. So the part of the round object that's closest to you usually is the most saturated. And in this case, their bellies are really kind of white, so I made that like a really bright white. Well, it's not white, it's green, but it's the lightest value on the bird. Okay, they're taking shape, but they still need all their features. Um, and they're definitely not um, true to like the exact colors, especially with the metallics I'm using. That's just kind of fun. And like the orange on their cheeks are a lot more orangey, but I just made like a pink coppery mixture for the cheek. And then they also oh, excuse me. They also have like white patches by their eyes. And so I'm going to just work, I think, on the beak a little bit more. Here we go. And fix the branch because it kind of got hidden. Okay, we're getting there. Gotta sign it. And I use a metallic gold on the sides. I don't show that, but I had a lot left over on the palette and just used that for the sides of this cradled panel. They had already been painted with that pink base color. This was a gessoed panel. It was like a white gessoed. Alright, so I'm just adding a little bit to each of the leaves, a little more detail with a lighter green. I like kind of like on the background how there's some really thick brush strokes, and here we're just having some fun scraping, splashing, splattering. That's kind of something I'm into. So now we're going to create a highlight for the eyes. And a lot of times for highlights, people think, oh, it needs to be really thick. But a lot of times I have to thin it down, or it'll, you're going to paint it right on top of other paint that's usually wet. So it needs to be thin enough that it doesn't push the other paint out of the way, especially on things like eyes. So it actually needs to be kind of watered down, like a more fluid consistency than the paint that's underneath it, so that it will stay put. All right, here's my palette and the finished painting. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave any questions or comments below. I'd love to hear from you.
I never thought in the wildest dream I'd see you again. Never dreamed about nothing else other than you. I always thought